She was one of the most loved characters in all of Star Trek history. Smart, fearless, funny, full of life. Fans adored her. The crew needed her. And then, just like that, she was gone. Not slowly written out. Not given a goodbye that made sense. She was killed off. And the woman who played her never came back. So what really happened? What was so bad behind those studio doors that one of Star Trek's brightest stars felt she had no choice but to walk away? Stay with us, because the truth is wilder than anything that ever aired on screen. Her name was Terry Farrell. And before she ever set foot on a space station, before she ever wore those iconic spots on her skin, she was just a small-town girl from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, with a big dream and very little plan. At just 16 years old, she mailed a photo to elite model management in New York City. 2 days after arriving in the city, she had a contract. 2 days. Most people spend years trying to get a foot in that door, and Terry walked straight through it before she was old enough to vote. She went on to appear on the covers of Vogue, both the Italian and German editions, and was featured in American Vogue as well. The fashion world opened its arms to her fast. But deep down, the runway was never what she really wanted. After about 18 months of modeling, Terry started studying acting. She kept modeling on the side just to pay her bills, but her heart had already moved on. Her early acting work was steady but slow. A small role here, a guest appearance there. She showed up in shows like Quantum Leap, The Twilight Zone, and The Cosby Show. She also made her film debut in the 1986 comedy Back to School alongside Rodney Dangerfield. These weren't star-making roles, but they were steps. Each one brought her a little closer to the role that would change everything. In 1992, she was cast as Kat in an American version of the British sci-fi comedy Red Dwarf. It seemed like a big break, but the pilot never aired. It was canceled before it ever reached the public. For a lot of people, that kind of setback would feel crushing. But Terry kept going. And not long after that disappointment, she got the call that would define the next 6 years of her life. She was offered the role of Jadzia Dax on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And if you know anything about that show, you know what that role meant. Deep Space Nine was not your typical Star Trek show. It didn't follow a starship zooming across the galaxy from planet to planet. Instead, the whole story took place on a single space station sitting near a mysterious wormhole. It was darker. It was more complicated. It dealt with war, religion, politics, and the gray areas in between. And right in the middle of all that heavy storytelling was Jadzia Dax, a character unlike anything Star Trek had ever put on screen before. Jadzia was a trill. That meant she was a humanoid whose body shared space with a tiny living creature called a symbiont. The symbiont inside her, named Dax, had already lived through 7 other hosts before Jadzia. So when you looked at Jadzia, you weren't just looking at a young woman. You were looking at someone carrying centuries of memories, relationships, skills, and wisdom inside her. She had been a scientist, a warrior, a musician, a lover, and a friend across multiple lifetimes. It made her one of the most layered characters in all of television, not just in science fiction. And Terry Farrell brought her to life with a warmth and a quiet confidence that made viewers fall in love with her instantly. Terry herself has said that playing Jadzia helped her in ways she didn't expect. In real life, she was still figuring herself out, still growing, still unsure of things. But Jadzia was calm. Jadzia was grounded. Playing that character gave Terry a kind of anchor during years when her personal life didn't always feel steady. She once described the role as making her feel secure, like she had found something solid to hold on to. That's the kind of connection between an actor and a role that you simply cannot fake. And audiences felt it every single time she was on screen. Over 6 full seasons, Jadzia became the beating heart of Deep Space Nine. Her friendship with Captain Benjamin Sisko went all the way back to a previous Dax host, making it one of the most unique relationships in the show. Her ability to drink and laugh and fight alongside Klingon made her endlessly entertaining. And her slow-burning love story with the brooding Klingon warrior Worf surprised a lot of fans at first, but quickly became one of the most compelling romances the franchise had ever produced. They were warriors who matched each other. They challenged each other. And eventually they got married. It was a big deal. It felt earned. And it meant that when what happened next actually happened, the pain hit even harder. By the time the show reached its 6th season, Terry Farrell had been working on Deep Space Nine for 6 long years. 6 years of heavy makeup sessions. 6 years of long filming days. 6 years of intense creative work. She had poured herself into that character, and she wasn't finished yet. But she was tired, and she had other projects she wanted to explore. So when the time came to negotiate her contract for the 7th and final season, she made a request that seemed, to most reasonable people, like a fair one. She asked to appear in only half of the episodes. Not to leave the show. Not to walk away from Jadzia. Just to reduce her workload so she could have some breathing room and pursue other opportunities on the side. That request was refused. Completely and without any room for discussion. The message from the studio and from executive producer Rick Berman was simple and brutal. Either do all 26 episodes of the final season, or do none of them. There was no middle ground offered. There was no attempt at compromise. It was all or nothing. And for Terry Farrell, after everything she had already given to that show, that kind of ultimatum felt like a slap in the face. But it got worse. In the years that followed, Terry spoke openly about what was really going on behind the scenes during those negotiations. In the book The 50-Year Mission, she described a working environment that had made her deeply uncomfortable, especially in the early years of the show. She said that Rick Berman made comments about her body that were completely inappropriate and unprofessional. Comments about her appearance. Comments that had nothing to do with the work and everything to do with making her feel small. She used the word misogynistic to describe his attitude, and she wasn't quiet about it. She named him directly and described the experience in detail. She also described the pressure that came during contract negotiations. Phone calls right before she was about to step onto set, asking whether she had signed yet. A junior producer who reportedly told her that without the show, she would end up working at a department store. Constant pressure. Constant intimidation. She said it plainly. He was trying to bully her into saying yes. And when she didn't, the studio made a decision that shocked the entire fan base. They killed Jadzia Dax. In the season 6 finale, Tears of the Prophets, Jadzia was attacked in the Temple of the Prophets by Ghoul Dukat, who had been taken over by evil spiritual beings called the Parates. She was badly wounded. She was brought to the sick bay, and she died. The symbiont Dax was removed and placed inside a new host named Ezri, who joined the crew in season 7. But for millions of fans around the world, it was never the same. Ezri was written as nervous, unsure, and unprepared. A stark contrast to everything Jadzia had been. And that contrast made the loss feel even more raw. Terry Farrell did not appear in the series finale. There had been a scene written for Jadzia, a brief flashback moment, but it was cut due to budget issues. She also refused to allow her image to be used in a montage at the end of the show. That decision said everything. The relationship between her and the people running that show had broken down completely. There was no warm farewell, no graceful exit, just a door that had been slammed shut. In the years after leaving Deep Space Nine, Terry moved on. She joined the cast of the sitcom Becker, which had a lighter tone and a much less intense working environment. She spoke about it as a relief, a chance to breathe. But she never stopped loving Jadzia. At a Star Trek convention in 2007, she admitted that she wished she hadn't left so soon. She called Jadzia the coolest character she had ever played. At Trek Las Vegas in 2014, she showed up in full Trill makeup and costume, wearing a shirt that read Dax 539, a tribute to the 539 times that makeup artist Michael Westmore had applied her signature spots. She thanked the fans for never letting Jadzia go. And she said clearly that if the right opportunity came along, she would gladly return to the franchise. As a hologram, a clone, a version from another universe. Whatever it took. Her personal life also took some interesting turns that Star Trek fans found deeply fitting. She married actor Brian Baker in 2002, and together they had a son named Max. After more than a decade together, they divorced in 2015. But then came a chapter that felt like it could have been written for the show itself. Terry got engaged to Adam Nimoy, the son of Leonard Nimoy, the man who played Spock in the original Star Trek series. Adam was a television director who had made a documentary about his father's legacy. Two people connected to different corners of the same universe, finding each other in real life. They married in 2017. It was the kind of story fans talked about for years. Though that marriage also ended in 2022, the connection between Terry Farrell and the Star Trek world never really went away. Because here is the truth that time has only made clearer. Jadzia Dax was not just a great Star Trek character. She was one of the greatest characters in all of television science fiction. She carried centuries of life inside her, and Terry Farrell carried all of it with grace, with humor, and with a realness that never felt like performance. What happened to her behind the scenes was wrong. The pressure, the disrespect, the impossible ultimatum. None of it was okay. But what Terry built in 6 seasons, what she gave to that character and to those fans, that is permanent. Rick Berman could take away the contract. He could not take away what Jadzia Dax meant to an entire generation of viewers. And maybe that is the most important thing of all. Not every story ends the way it should. Not every departure is clean or fair or kind. But the performances that truly matter, the characters that truly connect, those live far beyond the politics and the power struggles that happen behind closed doors. Jadzia Dax lives. And so does Terry Farrell's extraordinary, complicated, deeply human legacy inside one of the most beloved franchises of all time. If you think Terry made the right call walking away from a place that treated her that way, drop a comment below and tell us what you think. And if you enjoyed this story, please like this video, share it with a fellow Star Trek fan, and subscribe so you never miss another story like this one. There are more untold stories waiting for you right here, and trust us, you do not want to miss what's coming next.